is up, YouTube? I was gonna do a full day of eating today, which will come soon, but I remembered when I did that ultimate guide to bulking, a lot of people requested the ultimate guide to cutting, so I'm gonna be doing that instead. Still making a meal right now, eating clean, but I'm gonna be running you guys through just some tips and tricks that I learned along the way of my bodybuilding career on how to get shredded. So also because I'm kind of going into like a mini cut of myself, or at least trying to lean up while maintain muscle, not a hard shred, but I'll be talking about what I do, but mainly about a lot of questions that I get about it. Similar to the bulking one, it started off with how do I know when to cut and how long do I cut for? And again, it's very dependent on what your goals are, but in my opinion, when you start to lose your abs, for me especially, because my abs are something that are gone pretty late, so when I have a lot of body fat, I'll lose them. But if you have no abs showing anymore, you might be at the point of a bulk where you're starting to lose and plateau, and you need to cut down, you know, fix your insulin sensitivity, your metabolism, your digestion, a lot of things that are better off in a cut. So when you get to that point where you don't really like how your body looks, you're kind of fatter than you want to be, or you just want to be leaner because it's personal preference, then you can start a cut. And cut can really go as long as you want, depending on how you do it. If it's like a really punch in the face shred and you're like 2% body fat, that's aggressive. Sub 10% body fat over an extended period of time, it will start to affect your hormones. So you don't really want to do that for longer than like, you know, probably 3 to 4 months. But if you're just like getting shredded, coming back up a little bit, having refeed consistently, fueling your body, and you're continuously making progress in the gym, you can keep going constantly. As long as your body feels good, your body's optimized, energy is good, still making progress, you can keep pushing and going. So don't stress about going too long unless you're like sacrificing in the gym and you're starting to lose all your gains. All right, so the next big thing is how do you start a cut? And in my opinion, there's a lot of ways to do it, but there's two main ways to do it, and it depends on your lifestyle, so I'll go over both. The best way to do it, in my opinion, is you're already eating relatively consistently, even if you're not tracking, but you think you eat the same thing every day, log every single thing that you eat for at least a week. 2 weeks is even better, but if you log everything you put in your mouth, like condiments, juices, drinks, on top of all your fruit, vegetables, everything, count the calories every single day and track your weight morning and night, and do that for an extended period of time. Most people naturally get to a baseline where they're eating about the same and they're staying about the same weight when they're not trying, and that's your baseline calories. So from there, you need to adjust up or down on where to start. The other way is if you're super inconsistent, you have no idea what you're eating, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, and you don't know where you're going, you can start with a macro calculator, enter in all your information, it will tell you where to start, give you a rough estimate, but still, start with that. Follow it every single day for a couple weeks and track consistently and see what your weight does. If you're gaining too fast or losing too fast or whatever it may be, then you really want to adjust that. From the point of picking out your macros, because this is personally how I like to diet, I would pick macros and then create a diet plan off that and then stick to that strict diet plan. Macros are super basic. Everyone knows this. It's going to be 1 to 1.5 grams per pound of lean body mass of protein that you want to hit. So if I'm 260 pounds in my off season, but my lean body mass is 240, then I want to be a minimum of 240 grams of protein, but I almost always pump that up to like 350 because there's a lot of studies that have shown that if you're hitting up to 100 grams of protein per meal multiple times in a day, you can still use that and increase protein synthesis more and more and more and keep making more gains. And especially in a cut when you're trying to preserve muscle as much as possible, having enough protein is extremely crucial. Even your body's ability to metabolize protein requires more energy and is less likely to turn protein into fat than it is carbs into fat. So more protein is a great thing on a cut. Don't be scared of it. Start with that. And then from there, picking your carbs and fats, it's dependent on the individual. I like to do 70-30 split to start. So I do 70% carbs, 30% fat. And because I have a higher ratio of carbs, as I'm dieting, I'm kind of pulling from that. But it's super simple. You start with that. You find what your baseline is by tracking over an extended period of time. Log your food, log your weight, see what you're at. The biggest tip, I could probably leave 90% of the world. You guys are probably not 90% of the world, because if you're watching my YouTube channel, you probably care about your fitness, you're more into it. But the average person can just track their weight, write down what they're putting, and that psychological conscious awareness of what they're eating would change their habits of what they're eating. They're like, holy shit, I'm eating 100 grams of sugar from this Coke and this shit and all that shit. I don't want to write that down. I'm not gonna eat it, and it will make you better. And even myself, at the level that I am, that still makes me better to an extent. But when we want to be elite and make gains, you have to go beyond that. So track everything consistently going forward. And once you have that, you have your baseline calories. So your weight's not changing. You have enough protein so that you can recover, make gains, keep your muscle, and you're at a consistent thing. I like to drop 200 to 300 calories to start and add in a little bit of cardio. Not cardio to the point where you're going crazy or not, and I'll get into cardio a little bit later. But the key thing is just drop 200 calories, Personally, I start purely from carbs. So I have my baseline, 1.5 grams per pound of body weight of protein, 70% carbs for the rest of my macros, 30% fat, and then I take 200 calories of carbs and I pull that out of my diet. And then that's how I start, and I know I'm good to go. All right, so next thing is that there's two ways, again, two optimal ways, in my opinion, is more to it, of creating a diet. There's if it fits your macros. So if it's fit your macros, whole foods, which I recommend way more than if it fits your macros, shitty food. Get into that too. And then there's just a meal plan. I personally like having a meal plan because it just takes the guesswork out of everything. The more you have to consciously think and you get decision fatigue and you go overthinking, you're more likely to make bad decisions because naturally we go to the easy decision and we're constantly overthink. We're gonna pick the easy thing, which is usually better food, more access or something. So in my mind, having the same thing I'm eating every single day, it just doesn't even have an option to cheat on my meal. To cheat on my meal plan. So I literally write it out and I print it because I'm fucking old like that. If I had a fridge that had a magnet on it, I would put it right on there. But I write this out, meal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus a shake. And I write it out and I eat the same thing every single day. And then from there, it's easy to break. And if I want on a day, it's like, okay, my breakfast is 2 eggs, 1 scoop of ice split, 40 grams of oats. I'm rushing out the door. I know 40 grams of oats is 27 grams of carbs. I have 2 pieces of toast that are each 15 grams of carbs. I'll survive that day, but typically trying to hit that. The other style, obviously, if it fits your macros, the idea of that one is that you have, in my opinion, it means you have a lot more time on your hands and you're a person who craves foods really heavily. So the idea is understanding what's gonna work best for you. Whatever plan that you can adhere to most consistently will be the best route. Not necessarily saying a diet plan or macros are the better way to do it, but if you're gonna do one more consistently, then it's much better. But when it comes to the macros, like I said, whole foods are so much more important. Again, if I were to talk to the average population, I'd be like, track your food, eat whole foods. Just start with that and most people will be so much healthier and in much better shape. And it's a lot harder to overconsume in healthy foods. Like eating ultra processed foods, you're just more likely to condense calories in. And on top of that, there's a bigger cascade effect. I'm not a big believer in the whole calories in, calories out being everything because there's a hormonal effect that you have of putting foods in your body. There's higher inflammation, higher cortisol, eating at certain times of the day, eating shitty food. It can affect your sleep. When your sleep's off, again, higher cortisol. Higher cortisol means it's harder for your body to burn fat, so you're not gonna get lean as fast, and it can have all these other effects on top of affecting your energy while you train, your ability to recover, and obviously more muscle you have, the more fat you can burn, the more muscle you wanna have, the more shredded you look. There's so many effects to it, so I don't even wanna talk about if it fits your macros shitty food. I don't recommend it at all. Clean bulks, clean cuts, all the way. Healthy food is the way to go. We're taking care of our bodies, just eat healthy. But if you have the time to go through every single meal and be like, okay, I'm gonna have 50 grams of protein, 10 grams of fat, 30 grams of carbs. I can eat whatever I want in the realm of potato, rice, chicken, salmon, almond butter, all the different arrays of healthy whole foods, then good for you. But I don't have fucking time for that shit. So I eat the same thing every single day and I know what I gotta do. And if dinner is something my family's making, then I can weigh it out and figure it out from there. All right, so on the topic of kind of shitty foods, like if it fits your macros, people love to ask about cheat meals. And in my opinion, it depends on the person. If you're trying to drive results as your biggest goal and that's all you care about, then no, you shouldn't be having cheat meals. A cheat meal of shitty food is strictly for the mental reprieve that you need it. So if you eat fucking a burger on Sunday and you can continuously lose weight doing that and mentally you feel better and it drives you through the week excited for that, then fine. We all have our reasons to push forward and continue. But if you're optimally trying to progress, then no, cheat meals are not good. I really never had cheat meals throughout my preps unless I needed to hammer in like a burger and fries because I couldn't get enough calories in. 99% of the time it was a refeed day, so it was exactly the same foods I'm eating consistently. But instead of 100 grams of rice in a meal, it would be like 300 grams of rice and an avocado. So I was getting that clean food and doing it and just kind of giving my metabolism a kick in the ass, driving the workout the next day. And again, I spoke about this a lot in prep, but those would be typically pushed right before a leg day. So if I had like a heavy workout chest day, the next day was leg day, I'd have the cheat meal that night to recover from that chest day and then drive those carbs into the leg day the next day. So I'm getting recovery and performance from the benefit. Super important. So metabolism is obviously a big talk when it comes to dieting, and there's like the idea of ramping up your metabolism and also the idea of it slowing down over time. And there's also a lot of debate of whether or not this is true and what causes it. But from my personal experience, which contradicts some studies, but it's worked for me, so I don't really care. If I can ramp up my metabolism before I'm dieting for eating more meals in a day and more food in a day consistently, and utilize that food by training, maybe a little bit of cardio in my off season, then when I start a prep eating more calories, I'm in a much better position. I've started preps eating 6,000 calories a day, and my diet just like coasts through. And I've started preps at like 3,000 calories a day where I need to almost ramp up a bit and then back down, and they're much harder. But I've always noticed that throughout my off season, I get a little bit lazy, and I'll eat 3 meals a day, and I'll start to feel sluggish, it's harder to eat, all these things. And if I cut those meals into smaller meals and I spread them out throughout the day, I'm eating the same amount of food, and also my energy will get better, my digestion will get better. I'll start to get leaner while eating the same amount of food, so I can up my calories. I'm able to obviously consume more energy, therefore I'll recover better, train better, and make more gains. And there's a lot of people, everyone scientifically believes that you can't boost your metabolism by eating more frequent meals and spreading them out. So I don't know, but for me, it has worked every single time. And I've done it in a vacuum. Not many people have been like, I eat the same thing, taking the same supplements that did not change, the same thing consistently, the same cardio, waking up at the same time, eating the same thing. All I did was divide from 5 to 6 meals, and I got a little bit leaner from that. And then I went from 6 to 7 meals at the end of my Olympia prep, and it was super helpful for me. So stuff like intermittent fasting can help because it's easy to just not eat and then cram food at the end of the day. But in my opinion, you're gonna blunt your metabolism over time to do that and plateau a lot quicker. So not something I recommend. All right, so another question consistently get is, how fast should you lose weight, and how do you know if you're losing it too fast? And in my opinion, the best way to avoid that is not by throwing too many tools in at once. So like I said at the beginning, by just starting with a little bit of cardio and then taking down 200 calories from your baseline, you're not just gonna plummet from doing something such a small change. But if you're like, I'm gonna do an hour cardio, I'm gonna cut 1,000 calories, I'm gonna start doing X, Y, and Z, I'm gonna walk everywhere, I'm gonna do all these different things, and your body starts dropping too fast, then you're much likely to plateau. So if you're trying to do a long cut, let your body have the tools over time, start with small things at a time. But on average, I would say if you're losing more than like 3 pounds a month, you're close to that point. Through my Olympia preps, I would start relatively lean, but to get like peeled, I would lose 25 pounds over 14 weeks. So that's less than 2 pounds a week on average. But typically I'd get down to like 250 pounds and then be like 4 weeks out still, and I would lose 10 pounds in the last 4 weeks. So there's a way that you can do it up and down. But another big thing on that is if you start hitting plateaus too early, when they're standard plus group, this is the biggest thing that I've learned from talking to all these people, will be like, hey, I'm plateaued, I can't lose any more weight, I'm 220 pounds, eating 1,400 calories doing this, and I'm like, whoa, that's like a low amount of calories for that weight to not be losing any weight. So your body probably it needs to ramp up a little bit. And if you're trying to get lean, that's all you care about, let's say you're prep in a transformation challenge or whatever it may be, in my opinion, the best thing that you can do is start carb cycling. And this is like an elite level of dieting. Cutting your calories is one thing, but being able to carb cycle is super effective. So if you can start having those refeed days, like I said, a high carb day before a heavy workout, you're kind of boosting your body's metabolism. You're letting it know you're going to be giving it fuel. You're going to be giving it something that it needs, so it can like work extra hard on those days, train hard, get the system running. And then the next day when you cut back down to low calories, it will like fall through that. So, and it just gives your body the signal that you're not in starvation mode all the time, because if your body's constantly starving, it's just preserving energy and trying to hold on to it as best as possible. So that's one of the best ways to do it. The other way would just to be pull off your diet for a little bit, up your calories by like 200, so the reverse of how you started, and start ramping up a little bit rather than down, and let your body get used to properly recovering and all these things. And there's so many other factors that come into that I could ramble on forever, but the biggest one I would say is sleep. If you're high cortisol and your sleep is shit and you're trying to diet, it's gonna stop you from doing it. So sometimes dieting too hard makes you lose sleep. So you need that little bit of recomp where you're eating a little bit more, maybe you're taking a little bit off training, you're recovering, your nervous system is recovering, you're sleeping better, you're dropping your cortisol for an extended period of time, and then you hop back in your diet and you'll continue to progress. So don't stress about it. If you're like, I'm eating 1,400 calories and I'm not losing weight, I need to go down 1,000 calories. Maybe your body needs a break, but really listen to yourself, and you have to be tracking consistently to actually know these things. All right, so meals sometimes suck in dieting, and the top line answer is it is what it is. You're trying to get shredded, take it. But for people who are just dieting for life, or even myself sometimes, being able to just optimize condiments to make food taste a little bit better, the 3 top condiments that I use throughout my preps were honey mustard, sriracha, and coconut aminos. Coconut aminos probably had the most sugar. I specifically got the whole foods honey mustard because it was the lowest amount of sugar, lowest amount of calories. And in sriracha, you have to be careful, for some of them they have sugar in them, but those are super low calorie and good to go. But the goal with condiments is if you start your prep with them, keep them in until you have to cut them out. But if you don't have any condiments in and then you add them in later, you're technically adding more calories. So the goal is, like, if you start consistently with something and you're adjusting changes with everything, every other variable being the same, then you're good to go to continue to make progress. But you don't want to add in something like honey mustard when you're 2 weeks out of the Olympia, because you're adding a significant amount of calories relative to what you're eating to not affect it. But food does suck sometimes, so finding the right amount of condiments to add stuff can be beneficial. But weigh it at least a couple times, because you'll be shocked by how much you do it. People who use almond butter are like, yeah, a teaspoon of it. They're putting like 4 tablespoons on it. Or this says 5 calories per teaspoon. A teaspoon is like absolutely nothing. I would probably put at least 4 teaspoons minimum on a meal, so it's 20 calories. So just be conscious of that. Don't be dumb. What isn't measured isn't managed. Continue to track your stuff so you actually know what's going in your body and understand why you are or not getting results. All right, so people love to ask about supplements, especially for cutting, putting on muscle or cutting. I feel like people just lean into supplements. I never really was big on taking specific supplements that led to fat loss, but in terms of supplements that can help on a cut, first off, I would start with things that are just important in keeping your systems running, whether it be hormone production, energy production, all the different things. So something like a multivitamin, especially when you're dieting really hard. Hopefully you're getting your veggies in and all the stuff, but food also sucks nowadays. But when you're limiting your food, maybe you're not getting enough nutrients, so something like a multivitamin is super helpful. Beyond that, satiating the body is super important. Protein is huge, so I always have a protein powder in it. It's probably the leanest, easiest digestible, lowest calorie way to get in any amount of protein, the protein shake. Also, in terms of like diet hacks, if you're ever going out to like a dinner with people and you're trying to maybe just get a steak and eat clean or not eat at all, or going out for a long drive or whatever it may be, if you bring a protein shake with you, chug it right before going to dinner. It like kills cravings, kills your hunger super fast, and it's only like 140 calories. So super beneficial to utilize something like that. Amino acids, also something really big, just in terms of not losing muscle over extended periods of time, being able to sip on it between meals and spike protein synthesis more and more time throughout the day to keep yourself progressing. I think it's super big. On top of that, I would say keeping inflammation low is always important. Same thing as cortisol management, hormone management, just keeping your systems operating. So something like an omega-3, super simple and easy to add in. And then I would say mental things for myself, especially when I'm down to like really dying. You start to be tired and dragging your ass, and you start to like not be able to remember a lot of things. Stuff like alpha GPC, cognizin, tyrosine, help that dopamine precursor to just keep your body, to keep your mind focused and locked in, and be able to know what you're doing, especially before the gym. It's like pre-workouts that have a good amount of caffeine and nootropics in it, so that you can focus and get the job done and not just be like tired and lazy and hanging around. Super important. So in my opinion, I wasn't a big guy taking any fat burners or anything like, if I take this I'll get shredded without doing anything. It was more so optimizing my systems and curbing my hunger, keeping protein synthesis high. I can still not say that word, it'll never come to me. But that was how I viewed supplements in a cut for myself, so give it a shot. Cardio, also a huge question people continuously ask about. Similar to what I was talking about, not using tools too early, cardio is all about minimum effective dose. So having as minimal as possible when you're trying to maintain as much muscle as possible. And my cardio has changed now that I'm not competing anymore, and I actually care about my cardiovascular health, and I want to be able to hit that, so it's adjusted. But when I was in prep and I was just trying to get shredded, it was just incline walk on a treadmill, the lowest stress on my body, which where I was burning calories. I was trying to get my heart rate still up to like 120 beats per minute. And then the debate is always, do you do it at night, do you do it in the morning fasted, how do you want to do it? And in truth, it really doesn't matter as long as you're getting it done. The only thing is you don't want to do it before a workout, because you don't want to take away your energy and nutrients away from driving into putting on muscle, because it's still obviously the most important thing. So I used to like doing it first thing in the morning, and then I would eat a couple of meals and train later in the day, and that was the best way to implement it into my life. Now that I'm retired and life is different, I train after meal one, so I don't do cardio in the morning, and I'll typically do cardio post-workout. So instead of doing before, which ruins your workout, I get the workout in, maybe I'll get some aminos, and then I'll do some cardio at my gym. Or if I'm not at work all day that day, I'll come home and I bought 2 pieces of cardio that are a little bit more fun than just walking on a treadmill. So I have a rower that I've been doing for HIIT training, and then I have a bike which I can bike around my neighborhood, and sometimes I combine both of them just to get more interesting. And I'll do them later in the day, do them in the sunlight, get outside, do some things that it kind of gets more active and gets me outside doing things rather than just chilling. I will also say that there's some people who train bodybuilders who get shredded and win shows who don't do any cardio. They just tell them to increase their steps. Start at like 5K steps, 7K steps, go to 10K steps, and just walk more in a day and track that. And those people get shredded too, and it's possible. Some people get shredded without cardio. It really just depends on your body. So the goal is, if you're not losing weight and you brought your calories down a little bit, then add a little bit of cardio. I would start with 20 minutes 5 times a week and just get your body moving and consistently burning a little bit more calories. The more output you have, the more input you can have, the more you can eat, and it's just a better system for your body to run. So try different things that work best for you. You can do HIIT cardio, low intensity, steady state cardio, whatever you want to do. But if you're a bodybuilder and optimal muscle training, shredded, nothing else, low intensity, steady state is the way to go. Now that I want to have better heart health, better HRV, be in better shape, I've been doing a little bit more HIIT cardio at times, more biking, more this, more that, and it's super helpful. All right, so training on a cut. You could get a lot deeper into this, but I'm giving you guys the fucking top line right now, most important thing that you need. But in my mind, the goal is to not have to change your training until you have to. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm cutting, I'm gonna be tired, let me drop the weight and then do more volume. And they do that before they're actually tired. But you don't want to preemptively do that. You want to wait till you're actually to the point where you can't lift a certain weight because you're so exhausted that it has to pull down. But if you can keep pushing forward and keep training hard and training intense through a cut and not changing anything, you're going to be better off. You're going to maintain more muscle or even put on muscle throughout that cut. So I never really had different programs that were like, hey, I'm going to do sets of 20 now that I'm dieting because it burns more calories. Because it really, the amount of calories extra that it burns is like negligent, and you're just sacrificing gains by not lifting the way that's optimal to maintain and build muscle. So don't really do it. How do you train like that? You really just don't be a bitch. The longer that you can actually push yourself and just mentally train hard, you're going to be better off for it. So the thing that you can do in a cut around training that helps it is just nutrient timing. When you're down to really low calories and low carbs, the best way training wise is to put your carbs like moderate before, high after. Not high, but if you have 50 grams of carbs a day, which is super low, I would do 20 grams pre, 30 grams post, and split it up like that so that you're getting it around your training, which is the most important time of the day for your body to be able to recover and utilize that as you need it. And that's really the biggest thing that I change around cutting, other than just spreading out the carbs throughout the day. The only time that would change is if your sleep is really bad and you're starving in the middle of the night and you can't sleep. You can test this. Everything is a test and a sample to see what works best for your body by putting some carbs right before bed and seeing if that doesn't create a blood sugar drop, a cortisol spike in the middle of the night, which will ruin your sleep, and then again will affect your cortisol, your gains, your fat loss, everything else. But beyond that, keep training hard. Don't change your program unless you have to. Put carbs around the workout. You're good to go. All right, so I'll just go through a bunch of like tips and tricks now, because the big question is like, how do I fight cravings essentially? Again, top line answer is, if you want high results, expect high discomfort. That's just the way it was. The more you suffer, the more you endure, the more results that you'll see. So that's part of life and it's inevitable. But on top of that, if you're just like constantly hungry, having crazy cravings, one thing it might be is cortisol. High cortisol leads to a craving for ultra processed food, sugar, dense calories, whatever it may be. It makes you want food more. So things like screen exposure, being on your phone too much, having a stressful life situation, poor sleep, all these different things, first of all, affect each other, which then also affects the cascade of your hormones to make you more hungry and constantly wanting things. So just be conscious of that. All right, so huge thing, I talk about this a lot, having a structure, having system, setting yourself up for success. Taking the guesswork out of it. So when you have a conscious brain, when you want the goal and you have good drive, you create a plan, and then when your brain is feeling weak and falling off, you just follow the plan and it makes it easier for you. But setting yourself up with something like a system going throughout your day. Let's say I tell you it's perfect to eat your carbs before and after a workout, but in your mind you train right in the middle of the day, and then when you come home at night you have these crazy cravings. Well, then maybe it's better for you to drive results, for you to have lower carbs throughout the day while you're at work, driving the kids to school, doing things, busy, not thinking about it. You keep your calories low as possible, carbs low at that point, and then when you're home at night and you're chilling, you're bored, you're hanging out doing nothing, your cravings start to come, well, at least you have carbs for that. So it's kind of called carb backloading. So putting it at the end of the day and just That's more playing a mental game than it is a physical game, which is totally fine. If it drives results, it works. These things are all very nuanced and they're like fractional benefits. Eat at the right time and do all the things. When you stack these things, they work out a lot. But if you can't follow it because it's too hard, there's no point. So set yourself up for success. Create a system, a structure, a schedule that you cannot break. Another big thing that could help is having any level of accountability. Top line of this would be having a coach, having someone who's checking in on you, holding you accountable, helping you create structure, and just checking in on you essentially so you know you have accountability somewhere. Absolutely huge. Not everyone can afford that, so sometimes having things like a friend who's doing it with you, maybe a partner who supports you, let your wife, girlfriend, whatever know that this is super important to you. Be on top of me, track me, work on these things, help me work through this stuff. Beyond that, if you don't have that, if you don't have friends who lift, hang around the gym, you'll probably find some. But even my app, the Standard Community, we have the Transformation Challenge, we have Standard Plus, we have weekly calls, we have a circle group chat. We have all these chats hanging out in there that people can meet and talk to each other and hang out there as they're working through their goals. And just being around that energy, you are who you surround yourself with. So being around that is super helpful. All right, so a big thing that I struggle with because I live in Florida, but when I do it, I feel way better, is doing a 10-minute walk after every single meal that you eat. And there's two reasons why. A, lowers cortisol, helps your digestion, lowers your blood sugar, and it's so good for you. They've literally done studies comparing this to metformin, and it's had very similar effects. Stan Efferding had been talking about this for like 20 years, and they're just doing studies on now proving it. Again, bodybuilders always ahead of the science. I'm just saying it. He's also a really smart dude though, so do that. But people who don't want to do cardio, don't want to do all this stuff, to be able to just eat and then just go walk around for 10 minutes, it's not that hard. If you're structuring your day properly, you have time for that, and there'll be so much more benefit to your body. And the same thing like I was talking about for the cardio. If you don't want to do cardio for an hour or whatever, just getting in more steps in a day is super efficient. So if you're someone who has phone calls in a day, or you're listening to a podcast, or you just have break through it the day, instead of sitting there scrolling your phone or doing nothing, or sitting on a couch on the phone or behind your desk on the phone, put your AirPods in, headphones, whatever you got, and go walk around the parking lot, walk around the building, whatever it may be, and figure it out and help you get in much better shape much faster. I talk about this a lot when it comes to a bulk, but cutting just as important. Digestion, can't say that word either, is absolutely huge when it comes to anything optimizing progress for your body when it comes to building muscle or burning fat. So being able to do things like eat food in a conscious state. If you're in a high stress state, eating food, not really chewing, swallowing like big pieces, that's going to create bad digestion, mess up your gut, stop you able to absorb nutrients properly. Again, like I keep talking about, spike your cortisol, hold on fat more, just ruin a lot of things. So having digestive supplements, if you need to take a betaine HCl before you eat, some gut health products, something that's going to help you digest enzymes, whatever it may be. But even just being off your phone, chewing your food more, being intentional with it, doing those 10 minutes walks after every single meal can help you so much in progressing and moving forward. And it's just these little tips and things that you can add throughout the day. And the more touch points that you have in the day that are progressing you towards your goal, the more conscious you are of your goal, and the more likely you're going to continue to make good decisions. So doing that on top of creating a plan while you're at the beginning of the day, or have the beginning of the weekend full of energy, and follow that plan when you're tired throughout, you're setting yourself up for success, and you're in a much better position than most people. So at the end of the day, cutting sucks. It can be hard. It can also be easy when you get to a certain point, but if you want to get shredded, it's not always fun. But if you want to get something, you gotta go through hard shit sometimes. It's just the way it is. If you want to drive results that most people don't get, you have to do things that most people won't do. And it's the way it is. So all these tips and tricks are something that help, and there's so much more I could talk about. And even myself now, being on a diet and progressing forward, in all the YouTube videos to come, I'll keep implementing little tips and tricks and showing you how I'm doing it and adapting what I'm trying, what's worked for me, what doesn't. So I'll continue to talk about this because there's so much more that you can do. But at the end of the day, like I said, create a plan, stick to it, track your food, eat healthy food, and take care of your body, because being healthy is what matters. So have a good reason to do what you're doing, and it will work out better in the end. But yeah, that's my ramble on cutting for the day. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you guys want to see me ramble on other random topics, planning in life, let me know. Like I said, I will continuously be talking about this stuff going forward. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.